Welcome to Today in the News here on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adeomi. We'll flip into our newspapers for today, starting with Vanguard as usual. Major headline on Vanguard says, How bandits kidnapped 25 Kebbi schoolgirls, killed vice principal in deadly attack. Please confirm Kebbi school invasion. Abduction barbaric condemnable, says Kebbi government. Tinubu orders rescue of 25 abducted schoolgirls. Atiku condemns attack, advises federal government to strengthen security architecture. Gunmen abduct ex-NUS Beb's father. Nasarawa communities thrown into panic. Major headline can be found on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. Top banner, Pope warns against escalating violence, persecution against Christians in Nigeria. Nicki Minaj to address UN on alleged persecution of Christians in Nigeria. Tinubu to judiciary, justice must never be for sale. Akpabio, Mark, Shehu, others mourn as a media icon than Agbese dies at 81. Food inflation still rising, but at slower pace. Lower banner, PDP, tension as factions battle for Wadata Secretariat. Taraba Speaker, 15 PDP Assembly members defect to APC. Tension in Enugu community as Governor Vaskin's men protest alleged military invasion. Eric Shaw accuses Congo DR of using voodoo. Away from the Vanguard, a look into the Punch newspaper. Major headline on the Punch says, Mass abductions return, 145 missing in 4 days. Kidnapped Kebbi schoolgirls, Zamfara, Niger villagers, search intensifies. Atiku, PDP react, federal government pledges swift rescue. Top banner, Obasanjo fire should reignite old enmity, trade insult. PDP headquarters showdown, marking the Wike faction's old rival next sessions today. Inflation hits a 3-year low at 16.05%. 2024 capital project stall 2026 budget plans. Lower banner, Tinubu calls for corruption, free judiciary at judges conference. Federal government receives Bini bronzes repatriated from US. And lastly, tension as Lagos State urchins stab Air Force officer. Away from the Punch, a look into the Nation newspaper. Major headline on the Nation says, Tinubu orders manhunt for abductors rescue of 25 pupils. Top banner, faction head for showdown at PDP secretariat. Wiki and the rule of law by J.B. Daudu. President salutes Oyebamiji at 60. Tribute flow as a journalism icon Agbese dies at 81. Obasanjo Fayoshi back at war. Lower banner, Taraba Speaker, 16 lawmakers, ex-Kogi Governor Idris Wada defects to APC. Away from the Nation newspaper, look into the Guardian newspaper. Major line on the Guardian says, declining food prices, a firmer Naira pull inflation to 15% national target. Top banner, PDP crisis may consume 2 governors, others as faction fix parallel meetings. Genocide, US lawmaker alleges Tinubu lying, protecting own interests. Mass defection, Ndome predicts inclusion in APC. Security fears deepen over schoolgirls' abduction, slain general amid new assault. Obasanjo fires trade words over birthday fallout. Media word split, Dana Gbese dies at 81 as LNC others mourn. And lastly, 16 Taraba PDP lawmakers join APC ahead of Kefas. That's all we have on the front page of the newspapers this morning. Join us after the break for a quick analysis of some of our top stories. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News here on Vanguard Live. My name is Ololade Adewumi. With me in the studio today for a quick analysis is Mr. Dayo Akintobi. Mr. Publisher in Kajatirari today, Lekki today, and EU Pager today. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ololade. Good morning to all our viewers.
It's a pleasure having you in our studios today.
Pleasure is all mine.
I look into a first story for today. Bandits in the early hours of yesterday kidnapped 25 students of Government Girls Comprehensive Senior Secondary School, Maga, Kebbi State, killing the principal in the process. Witnesses said the bandits operated without resistance and caused widespread panic, throwing the entire area into deep fear and mourning. It was learned and was reportedly said that Makuku was shot while attempting to protect the student during the invasion. In response, a combined security operation, political tactical teams, military and vigilantes has been launched to comb escape routes and nearby forests to rescue the girls. What are your opinions of the resurgence of abductions and kidnapping? Because this is 25 students that have been kidnapped. We have a case that happened recently, 4 days ago, if I'm not mistaken, in Niger, Zamfara, and we just have like a new service chief. What is your opinion on this resurgence? It's like this is starting all over again.
We haven't forgotten Chibok. We haven't forgotten that
Exactly.
Leah Sharibu is
And it
in
looks like
captivity.
it's the same thing, the same modus operandi,
Same modus,
exactly,
yes, yes.
without resistance, and
Yes.
they just kidnap these people.
Yes, well, it goes to show that we haven't learned anything from past experience because it's not the first time happening. It's not the second or the third, and when it happens, as you said, they use the same methodology. So how come we haven't been able to learn enough from past incidents to be proactive to prevent future ones from happening? It's after it has happened that we now jump up and start running helter skelter. And I think our emergency services need to be our emergency response system needs to be more efficient. In other words, when something like this happens, there should be a way to raise an alarm that will bring help. And for them to be able to operate unhindered for several minutes, to take 25 human beings and kill one in the process. And by the way, I heard it was a vice principal.
Vice principal,
Yes,
yeah.
not principal, vice. To be able to operate unhindered, carry on 25 of them, and be able to go and get away. It's not something you can do in 2 minutes. So while that was going on, there's no emergency alarm system that you can use to summon help, and the help can come quickly, because especially in places where you have concentrations of people, schools, houses of worship, marketplaces, there should be some sort of system put in place ever since the insecurity happened, to where whenever there's some sort of attack, they should be able to raise the alarm very quickly and get help. But the army is stretched thin. Our armed forces, they are deployed all over the place. They are trying to fight this thing from all fronts. They can't be everywhere at the same time. Nigeria is a big country, but by now, I think our intelligence apparatus, by which you can predict these kind of attacks, either with technology using things like algorithms and look at the pattern of how it has happened in the past and use it to predict possible future hotspots so that they can already deploy forces in that general area. If we don't have the means to do that, then there's local intelligence where bandits, kidnappers, they don't operate in isolation. They have to gather somewhere, they have to collect their bikes somewhere. Even after they took the 25, they didn't just march them along the road somewhere. They probably took them on bikes, took them in buses. 25 people are not easy to keep under control. So people must have seen them going. And I'm not sure that the forest is right next door to the school anyway. So they must have passed through some route. They must have used some route to get to the school. When they were coming, some people must have seen them. Some people supplied them with consumables, diesel, petrol for their bikes, petrol for their generators, batteries for their torchlights, recharge card for their mobile phones. For that kind of operation, they need consumables, and they have to get them from somewhere. And that somewhere will be within the area of where they are operating. It will be within the theater of operations of where they're operating. Because it's not like you can fuel up from 200 miles away and now start riding to come 200 miles. So where they fueled up can't be too far away from where the incident happened. How come nobody's saying anything? How come the neighbors, the places, their staging area where they used to gather themselves and launch the attack, how come nobody saw them, said anything? So it's a failure of intelligence. I believe that by now, the government should have the eavesdropping ability to be able to listen to internet chatter, to be able to listen to telephone calls, to be able to track phones where those people left. However they left from, they should be able to be tracked, where they went. We should be able to follow, as they're going. Even if it's motorbikes, they're leaving trails, they're leaving tracks. Then hopefully they'll make a phone call and tell us what they want. Maybe it's ransom, we don't know. But security people should be prepared that if a phone call comes from them, they should have all their technology ready to be able to track where the phone call is coming from. So it's a sad day. I mean, at this stage of evolution, this kind of thing should not be able to happen. 25 ragtag, miscreants to be able to launch an operation that's as sophisticated as taking away 25 children from a school that is supposed to be secure. It's a sad day in Nigeria.
So who would you say Nigerians should hold, accountable? Would you say the president, the service chief, or the intelligence?
We are all accountable, even we are, because remember I told you that even the citizens within the surrounding area must have either turned their eye away or actively collaborated with those people. So we're all responsible. I think the government has its own role to play in fighting insecurity as a whole. Here we are, wasting a lot of valuable time arguing about whether it's genocide or it's not genocide. We're wasting a lot of time about whether it's a country of particular concern or it's not a country of. Whereas what we should be doing is stopping the killing. It shouldn't matter who is being killed. That should not be the area of focus. Is that Nigerians are being killed, how do we stop it? Nigerians are being kidnapped, how do we stop it? These are the areas where our energies should go. If we spend as much energy working on that as we do about arguing whether it's genocide or it's not genocide, maybe we'll make a lot more progress. So the buck stops at everybody's table, from the presidency, the federal government in general. The state governments do have a role to play, although to some extent they will say, well, security is not within their purview. That's why they're clamoring for state police. They don't have state police, but many of them have vigilante systems. Then the state governors have a lot more money than where they can support the police. In Governor Fashion's time in Lagos, they set up something called the Police Security Trust Fund, and they now appeal to corporate bodies to support that fund. And you had banks, you had multinationals, all contributing huge sums of money to that fund, to where the state government was able to now better equip the police than the police themselves could, from Abuja, their subvention, could equip. So Lagos State had that whole RRR, rapid response system, right? One of the best equipped formations in the whole country. That's because of private money. So these state governors that have a whole lot of money more from subsidy savings, their role should be use some of this money to support the police. Even if they are a federal entity, it's still your people that they are protecting. So you have an obligation, one way or another, to do something. So apart from vigilante, they can also fund the police locally, So state governments do have responsibility. Then, of course, the armed forces have responsibility. Us as citizens. So it's everybody. It's a collective failure on the part of all of us that this kind of thing could have happened. 25 young children. I mean, all female. And the question I was asking is, why is it female?
Exactly.
Why is it always girls that are taken? Why? What's the attraction in the girls? Is that they want to marry them off? Or I have a suspicion that they do girls because that creates more attention. It creates more empathy. People are more horrified when it's girls, because females are viewed as a vulnerable gender. So when it's a female, when it's girls, everybody's up in arms. Do something. If it's ransom, they won't pay them. If it's this, do it. It's girls. Girls are vulnerable. So I suspect that may be part of the reason, but it may be deeper than that. Who knows? But the bottom line is, whether girl, whether boy, whether young, whether old, it's life that matters. That matters most, yes.
So a lot of concerns have been raised on the tag they're giving to them, called bandits. People are saying in this case they should be terrorists. What do you agree with that? What's your opinion on that?
Well, it's an ideological difference. Terrorists generally use terror to fight a cause, right? To fight a cause. Kidnappers, their cause is economic. It's purely hold you in exchange for ransom. So each of those labels connotes something slightly different. But I think terrorist is the catch-all phrase for all manner of insurrection now. Terrorist is the general term we use to apply to all of them, but there are slight differences. Kidnappers have a financial motive. Bandits are the ones that I can't really clearly classify because I don't know what they are about. I do know that, for example, kidnappers, like we said, we know what they want. Terrorists, we know generally what they are all about. But bandits, farmer, herder, clash, we knew what that was all about, right? Bandits, they seem to just want to generally commit mayhem any which way. that term seems to just indicate just never do wells, criminals who are just out to cause mayhem. In the process, they will get collateral benefit. In some cases, their banditry will give them money. In some cases, their banditry will give them hostages. In some cases, their banditry may get them weaponry. In some cases, their banditry may give them control over a village or a certain area. But at the end of the day, bandits create mayhem. So I'm not sure that at this point we should really be classifying. I think anybody in this day and age now who is part of Nigeria's general insecurity, who is part of fomenting it, I think should be viewed as a terrorist, because that terminology, terrorist, it enables greater crime fighting tools to be deployed. The reason is that if you are branded a terrorist, you lose some constitutional protections. Unlike as a bandit or a kidnapper now, they can still be viewed with some lesser severity of offense. But terrorists, that word terrorist globally is a total persona non grata, and if you are convicted, you could even be executed for it. Apart from the fact that, probably the lightest sentence for terrorism is life sentence. And many of them will face death penalty. So terrorism is looked at with a harsher view than banditry, kidnapping, insurrectionist, whatever name you want to call them. So we're at a point now where Nigeria's insecurity problem is to such a high level that everybody should be branded a terrorist.
President Tinubu has pledged not to relent until the girls are safely rescued. The government, like I mentioned earlier, has come up with a combined tactical team, the police, the vigilantes, and all of that. Would you say this is sufficient enough?
When Chibok happened, the government in power at that time said more than this one is saying, and they still didn't resolve the issue. So that's the president's role, is to reassure people and to promise. Anytime something happens, the first thing you hear the police saying is, we will leave no stone unturned to get to the bottom of this. At one point, I hated hearing that, leaving no stone unturned, because it became meaningless. Because whatever problem occurred then, at the end of the day, they wouldn't solve it. So it's easy when something has happened, to roll out the drums and say, oh, we will not tolerate this, we will not accept this. But talk is cheap. I'm sorry to say, talk is cheap. We can talk from now to kingdom come. The issue is, are we doing enough to try and resolve this issue? Of course, the president has to say, we will leave no stone unturned to get the girls back. That's what's expected of him. But what are the concrete steps? Okay, so he said there's joint task force, vigilante. They're throwing everything they have at it. But the truth of the matter is that's reactionary. Or somebody said reactionary. I don't know which English is correct. But we're supposed to be proactive and prevent these things from happening. By the time it has already happened, it's too late. No, we'll get the girls back by God's grace. But what I'm saying is, prevention is better than cure. We should have stopped it from happening. If it's after it has happened that we now start running helter-skelter, and we're already in trouble, we've already failed. Because even if we get them back, and when we do get them back by God's grace, they've been through trauma. Their moms probably didn't sleep a week last night.
Definitely.
Did not sleep. The family of the vice president that was killed, they are in distress and mourning for life. They will be scarred for life. So, getting them back does not erase what has happened. A lot of entities will be damaged from that one incident. So getting them back is just a minor part of the resolution. It doesn't cure all. It doesn't. Damage has been done, and that damage can be permanent. So what the president you asked me earlier about the service chiefs, do I think they're doing enough? They are new. I don't think they've been tested yet. But what I do know is that President Trump's threat to deploy military intervention in Nigeria if the killings do not stop, that statement has gingered up our armed forces. I think the president himself has taken it serious enough to where he has given marching orders. And it seems to be a coincidence. So many things happened at the same time. There was rumors of a coup immediately after the service chiefs were changed. Then immediately after that, Trump's threat came. So all those things are
coming back, cutting his trip short.
All those things seem to have combined to ginger up the armed forces. The new service chiefs are too new for us to be able to say Are they competent? Are they doing the right thing? We have to give them a bit of time to know if they are capable. But the president has given them marching orders. We pray that they find the girls and they bring them back quickly, and we prevent this kind of thing from happening.
So earlier you spoke about prevention being better than cure. So people are of the opinion that we only see strong statements like this from the government after an incident has happened, and maybe if they say this before incidents like this happen, it sounds like some sort of deterrence to the bandits or kidnappers. And so, do you agree with that statement?
Yes, remember I was saying that we need to be proactive, and before things happen is when we need to already be putting the steps in place. So part of it might be a national orientation agency type campaign that says banditry, kidnapping, insurrection, and terrorism will not be tolerated. You do it, you die. You do it, we catch you. You do it, we will catch you. We catch you, we will execute you. We'll make sure you get life sentence. I read in the news yesterday that a former vice president of some country got sentenced to death for, I think, corruption.
Corruption, yes.
Death sentence for stealing from the public purse while he was in office. So imagine if in this country it is known that you commit this kind of crime, we will catch you, and when we catch you, we will execute you. Let's change the constitution and say, let's abrogate right to fair trial, all those trial. If it's terrorism you are charged for, you are caught, you are summarily executed. By the time they do that to a few people, tempers will calm down a bit, I think, because I believe everybody values life. Nobody wants to die just like that. So there are steps that should be taken. Yes, a campaign should be made underway, that should be undertaken, that will emphasize the fact that zero tolerance for this kind of behavior, zero tolerance, we will not accept it. And it should not just be talk, action should follow. In this country, we talk too much. Although I guess that's how you and I earn our daily bread from talking. So. But, we should act more and talk less. Not talk, leave no stone unturned. Matching orders to this, talk. Where is the action? Let's see more of action, less talk.
Okay, so in an article written by Vanguard, actually, they mentioned, strengthening cooperation by ECOWAS, the African Union, and the Multinational Joint Task Force. How realistic do you think is meaningful, cross-border cooperation in curbing insurgencies like this?
It's very, very important, because a lot of what is happening in the north is rumored that people are coming across the borders. That's Chad, Burkina Faso, some of those countries that are further north and that have their own turmoil. For example, we're hearing that a lot of this insurgency is fueled by weapons that came from Libya, that after Gaddafi was overthrown, that a lot of the weaponry from Libya found its way across the Sahel, and much of it is what is in the hands of these bandits, kidnappers, terrorists, what have you. Because when they are armed, it gives them an invincibility and a sense of power that they can do and undo when they have. And some of their weapons are rumored to be more sophisticated than what even our army has. So that's what's fueling their courage, is the fact that they are armed. And the arms are not coming from Nigeria. Our own armories are well defended. I think during NSAS, they broke into one or two of the police station armories. Yes, and got some small caliber weapons. But I think those are in the hands of local area boys here, not necessarily, or political touts, not necessarily this organized terroristic activity type of thing. So, without a doubt, cooperation from ECOWAS, from other countries, I think can help in terms of manning the borders, in terms of keeping undesirables out of the country. I think it also helps that, Nigeria has sent soldiers to other countries to help keep peace, right? We were the big brother for a long time. Many of the Liberia, many of these countries look to us to help when they were in trouble. Yes, Sierra Leone. So what's wrong with them coming to help us when we're in trouble? Because obviously this thing has been going on for so long that it looks like we ourselves don't have the solution by ourselves. So we need collaboration, whether boots on the ground, or intelligence, or technology, or weaponry, whatever the case may be. This thing might require collaboration. What we don't want is a foreign power unilaterally on its own coming to insert itself in our country, a sovereign nation, right? Like what Trump wanted, or talked about doing. What we want is collaboration, that we should all come together, put our hands together and agree on a plan. But not that you should just come, parachute from the sky and drop all your men here without our agreement, without our conceding to you doing that, simply because you have a stronger army and you have the money to be able to do it. So yeah, let's get help. We need help.
Away from that, let's quickly touch on our second story because our time is fast spent. According to the latest Consumer Price Index released by the National Bureau of Statistics on Monday, Nigeria's inflation eased for the second consecutive month in October as new base year adjustments and moderating food prices helped pull headline pressure lower. The report stated that the headline inflation fell to 16.05% in October from 18.02% in September. How significant do you think this drop to 16.05% is, in a structural improvement?
Well, it's good news because anything that's going down, especially in a situation where things are high, if it's going down, it's good. But what you have to ask yourself is, what impact is that reduction having in the market? You see, we have to understand, I'm not an economist, but what I understand to be inflation is the rate at which the price is going up.
Yeah.
So the fact that it eased from 18 to 16 does not mean prices are dropping. Let's get it right. All it simply means is that the rate at which it is increasing has dropped. So I give you an example. You buy something 100 naira today. Next week, you buy 200 naira. That's 100% inflation. That means it has doubled in price, right? The following month, it goes from 200 to 250. Guess what has happened? Inflation has dropped from 100% to 50%, but the item is still expensive. In fact, it is more expensive than you bought it last month. People misunderstand to believe that when inflation is dropping, it means the price is going down. No! The only time the price is going down is when inflation is zero. As long as even if you have 1% inflation, it means the price is still increasing. Period. So, but it's good news because it means the increases are slowing. So, let's continue to hope that the increase will continue to slow to where we'll get to the point where it won't increase at all.
Yeah.
No, the dropping. We have to first get to where it won't increase. Now you buy it for 200 today, 2 months from now, it's still the same 200. That's what we need to get to first. Forget about price dropping. That's a major, another different mountain. And I venture to say that hardly anywhere that the price has gone up does it ever really drop majorly. But I hear some food items are going down. I hear rice, it depends on how inflation is calculated. In this case, for example, they say they rebased the way inflation is calculated. So that it's next year when they do year-on-year comparison that will really know the true state of things. But for now, as far as I'm concerned, any drop is still a benefit to us because it means there's less pressure on our wallets. I think the focus should be more on stagnant wages. Because no matter what that percentage is dropping, we still can't afford the prices. So let the focus be more on putting more money in people's pockets.
How sustainable do you think this decline will be, especially for food?
Well, we're coming up on the festive season, so that's already a problem because prices increase naturally during the holiday season. And here we are, we're about 4 weeks away from Christmas, and generally prices will increase at that time. I think that as long as this insecurity continues, that a lot of farmers still have difficulty. There are some local governments in Borno State, for example, that are totally under the control of terrorists. That there are ungovernable spaces in many areas in the north. And the north, of course, and the middle belt is a breadbasket. That's where much of our food is produced. So as long as those places are under pressure, it will continue to create a scarcity or a reduction in the crop harvest, the quantum of crops that are harvested. And the first law of economics, supply and demand, is that the less goods that are available, the more people that are rushing, the more demand
demand.
And the less supply, prices go up.
Prices will go up.
So that's the issue. So we look at it and see how it goes and continue to hope. I think that the reforms the government has put in place from the beginning, I think that in the long term, they will turn the economy around. But the key is we will be able to survive and eat during that time before the reforms begin to take root.
So people have the opinion that while there's inflation, lower inflation price on food, the cost sectors like transport, services, housing is still high.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, food is the most important thing. If you as long as you can eat, everything else will fall into place. But it's when you can't afford to eat, then everything else breaks down. So for me, let's resolve the food issue first. As long as we can sort that, then we can know how to work with things like transport is high. Okay, so maybe I put on my trainers and I walk half of the way to save my money. There are alternatives. They might not be palatable options, don't get me wrong, but there are alternatives once you have food in your belly to all of the other problems. Electricity is still expensive. Data for your phone is expensive. Transportation is expensive. Housing, and housing is getting worse, especially in Lagos. Housing is getting really, really bad, and I put the onus of that on government that they need to invest more in low-cost housing, medium-cost housing, and the excuse of, we don't have enough time. Governor Jakonde in Lagos built so many housing estates and only spent 4 years to where today there's no area in Lagos that doesn't have a Jakonde estate. You see Jakonde bus stop everywhere you go because there's a Jakonde estate somewhere around there. So government needs to invest a lot more in housing.
Thank you very much for joining us today, sir.
My pleasure always.
That was Mr. Dayo Akintobi, publisher Ikeja TRA today, Lekki today, and Ilupeju today. That's all we have on the program for today. Do well to follow us on all our social media platforms as seen on your screen. For up-to-date story, check out the website at www.vanguardndia.com. My name is Odolade Adeomi. Until next time, have a lovely day.